Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS Dolphins Rams in LA. Rough Sunday, man. Cowboys plus 7.5. What a bad bet. I'll tell you what, though. I deserved the Broncos money line. I deserved that bet. Plus 320 would have made today a lot less painful. I deserve that Broncos money line. Blocked field goal, man. Falcons minus 3.5. Saints offense today came out looking completely different than they had the past few weeks. Yeah, rough NFL Sunday, man. Let's put it in the past. Apologies to everyone who tailed. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the SWUS. The SWUS. SWUS. Hey, get the SWUS.
All right, like I said, Dolphins are on the road in LA. Rams are laying 2.5 points at home here. This number was at 2.5 early in the week. It got brought down to 1. Now it's back up at 2.5. I'm seeing 2.5s across the board. Total sitting at 49 or 48.5, depending on your sports book. Take a look at the pie charts, and according to this data, action's coming in on the Rams side. About 60% of the tickets, about 60% of the money. Take this data with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with the Dolphins offense. These numbers are pretty underwhelming looking. 24th in yards per play, 19th in success rate, bottom 10 passing attack, pretty mediocre rushing attack. But I think we all agree that we can just disregard those games without Tua, because this Dolphins offense, night and day difference. In the 4 games with Tua at quarterback, they're averaging 21 points per game, which isn't great. 6 yards per play and a success rate over 50%. Couple of nice looking numbers there. So you see the 21 points per game. Obviously, that's not great, but when Tua's at quarterback, the Dolphins are moving the ball. 6 yards per play, success rate over 50%. That's very good. Compared to the 4 games without Tua at quarterback, they're averaging just 10 points per game, 5 yards per play, success rate down below 40%. So again, night and day difference when Tua Tagovailoa is in there at quarterback, and they're matched up against a Rams defense that they should theoretically be able to move the ball on. Rams defensively on the year, 27th in yards per play, 22nd in success rate, bottom 10 pass defense, closer to an average run defense, maybe slightly below average, 10th in yards per carry allowed, 21st in success rate per rush. The strength of this Rams defense has been the pass rush. In fact, it's pretty much the only strength the Rams defense has. They're 4th in pressure rate, 12th in pass rush grade, 9th in adjusted sack rate. The Rams defense can pretty much be summarized. If the pass rush gets home, they're good. If the pass rush doesn't get home, you can pretty much do whatever you want on. You can run on them. I mean, their secondary can't seem to cover anybody. So this Rams defense is entirely anchored by the pass rush. Miami's offensive line has actually been pretty good in pass protection. 4th in pressure rate allowed, 16th in pass blocking grade. So maybe Miami's able to neutralize the Rams pass rush, in which case this Rams defense should be in a situation here. And it's not like that would be crazy. The Rams defense hasn't really been stopping anybody. On the season, they're allowing 245.6 passing yards per game, 8.5 yards per pass attempt, success rate per dropback over 56%. So this Rams defense has been bad against the pass this entire season, despite having a very good pass rush. So that means we should be looking at a very nice matchup for Tua and the Dolphins passing attack, right? Well, hold on. What do the Rams do a lot of? Cover 3. 5th in the NFL in cover 3 frequency, 5th in single high safety frequency. Tua's been awful against cover 3. 26th in completion percentage, 36th in pass rating, 30th in yards per pass attempt, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions against cover 3 so far this year. And by the way, even last year when he was killing it, didn't have the best numbers against cover 3. So he wasn't even that good against cover 3 last year. So despite the Rams having a terrible pass defense, it's actually not the best matchup for Tua on paper. Now, does that mean the Rams are going to shut down Tua and Tyreek Hill and Waddle? Of course not. The Rams do not have a good pass defense. I'm just saying it's not the best matchup for Tua coverage-wise. That's all. What I'm really looking at when it comes to the Dolphins offense is right here. Are they going to be able to run the ball? Through the first 5 games, they were averaging just 4.1 yards per carry, 128.7 rushing yards per game, success rate per rush down at 37%. But in the last 2 games, the Dolphins seem to be getting the run game going, 150 yards per game, 5.5 yards per carry, success rate up to 45%. Remember, in addition to Tua putting up crazy stats throwing the ball last year, Dolphins also had one of the most efficient rushing attacks in the NFL with Achane and Mostert. So if that's getting going again, the rest of the Dolphins offense might just go with it. Now, here's where it gets a little bit confusing. The Rams defense against the run, it was looking awful through the first 5 games. Over 152 rushing yards allowed per game, 4.86 yards per carry. Look at the Rams' numbers against the run in their last 2 games. 86.5 rushing yards per game, 3.26 yards per carry, 29.1% success rate per rush. One of those games was against Seattle, and they have, an average rushing attack, nothing special. The other one was against Minnesota, granted in a terrible spot just 3 days after the Lions game. So maybe not the toughest competition, but 3.26 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 30%. These are numbers that we at least have to take a look at. Now, does this mean the Rams have a good run defense now that we can trust? Probably not. Their defensive front is very, very young. They have the youngest defensive front 7 in the NFL, but maybe they're trending in the right direction in terms of stopping the run. Personally, I don't think 2 games is enough. I think the Dolphins are going to run the ball in this game. So I know everyone's thinking Miami's offense with Tua, Waddle, Tyreek Hill against the Rams secondary, which continues to get cooked. I know everyone's expecting an air raid type of offense here, but with the Rams pass rush heating up, and keep in mind, the Dolphins are missing a right tackle in this game. The Dolphins are down an offensive lineman. I don't know if McDaniel's comfortable dropping Tua back to pass 35, 40 times in this game. I'm expecting Miami to run the ball, and I think they're going to be able to. Another thing I found, check this out. In their last 2 games, so since Tua has been back, Miami's running an extremely slow pace, over 29 seconds between snaps, 4th slowest in that span. So Miami's running a super slow pace. I expect them to run the ball. That kind of points me towards an under, right? Up at 49, this total kind of points me towards an under. But here's why I definitely can't do that. Want to know who has one of the worst defenses in the NFL? Maybe the worst defense in the NFL, defending specifically the deep pass? The Rams. They're 30th in DVOA against the deep pass. Actually, they're dead last. 32nd in EPA per dropback against the deep pass. Look at Tua's numbers throwing the deep ball. Pretty efficient. So although I expect the Dolphins to come out, run the ball, chew the clock, I do think Tua's going to connect on a couple big ones here. So overall on this side of the ball, I like the matchup for the Dolphins offense. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I also think we're going to see a big play or two. So I think the Dolphins are going to put up points in this game. But what about the matchup on the other side? Let's talk about the Rams offense against the Dolphins defense. These 2 units pretty evenly matched. Yards per play and success rate. Rams offense 16th and 7th. Dolphins defense 9th and 15th. So pretty evenly matched here. What you love to see, if you're a Dolphins fan, is right here. Dolphins defense seems to be heating up against the run, which is huge. If you remember, the Dolphins had a very good run defense last year. Last 2 games allowing less than 89 rushing yards per game, 3.9 yards per carry, 42.2% success rate per rush. Look at the opponents. Arizona and Buffalo, 2 offenses that can most definitely run the ball. So this Miami defense starting to resemble the good Miami run defense from last year. So are the Rams going to be able to run the ball in this game? Well, it certainly doesn't help that they lost yet another offensive lineman. Havenstein is out for this game. He joins Jonah Jackson and Steve Avila, who have been out for several weeks, by the way. They just lost another one. Another piece gone from this offensive line. This is a mess. Kevin Dotson might not even play. He participated in practice on Friday and Saturday. He missed Thursday's practice, so I think Dotson might play. But if Kevin Dotson doesn't play, who is on the offensive line? For the Rams, this unit is an absolute mess, and the lack of production from the offensive line is starting to catch up to them. Last week on the road in Seattle, they were held to 2.8 yards per carry, 68 rushing yards in the game, success rate per rush under 30%. That's against the Seahawks. That defense has been having all kinds of problems this year. So the Rams offensive line in its current state, matched up against a Dolphins defense that seems to be heating up against the run, I don't think the Rams are going to be able to run the ball in this game. And it actually gets worse than that. What about protecting Matt Stafford? Keep in mind, Stafford's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL under pressure this year. When pressured, he has a 38.4 passer rating. 38.4. That's 42nd amongst active quarterbacks. He's also 40th in turnover-worthy play rate. So you put pressure on Matt Stafford, Rams offense could be in some trouble. Last week against Seattle, when pressured, he was 3 of 15. 3 of 15, 51 yards and a pick, a 13.5 passer rating. Matt Stafford has not done a good job handling pressure this year, and this Dolphins pass rush is pretty good. Check this out. Through week 6, the Dolphins were sitting at 5th in pressure rate. So after week 6, the Dolphins were in the top 5 of pressure rate. Now, the last few weeks, we've seen the pressure die down a little bit. They're back at 12th on the full season. If you look at who they've played in the last 3 weeks, at Indianapolis, the Colts have one of the best pass protections in the NFL. Cardinals, Arizona's offensive line has been great this year. They're probably also in the top 5 of pass protection, certainly top 6 or 7. And their last game was in Buffalo against the Bills. Tell me this isn't the perfect buy low spot on the Dolphins pass rush against a Rams offensive line that's in shambles right now. I think we're going to see Miami look like a top 5 pass rush again, which is why I'm on Miami in this one. The Rams squeaked by last week against the Seahawks. Let's be honest, if Geno Smith doesn't throw 2 picks inside the 10-yard line, Seahawks probably win that game comfortably. And Miami, if you look at their 2 games since Tua's been back, they lost them both, but it was against Arizona and Buffalo, and both games required a miracle comeback at the end. The Dolphins could have won both those games. Miami's looked pretty good these last 2 games. I think they're going to be able to run it. I think Tua's going to connect on a couple deep balls, and I think the Dolphins defense is going to bully that Rams offensive line, or the shell that is a Rams offensive line. So give me the Dolphins plus 2.5 and money line. Live show 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go through this game. We'll go through the NBA slate. We'll talk some college basketball. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Let's have ourselves a good one. Let's bounce back. I had a terrible NFL Sunday. Please remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you in the Discord.